So LLM is some fundamentally neural network, typically transformer-based neural network, that's been trained on a large amount of text, human text usually. And what it does is it learns the structure of that human text. These LLMs have memorized so many things. Sometimes they memorize specific facts. A lot of times they memorize sort of conceptual facts. And so when you ask it a question, it'll, in its sort of vast memory that's encoded in the weights of the neural network, it'll spit out an answer. And oftentimes those answers are plausible but totally made up. And people refer to this phenomenon as hallucination or confabulation. And so that's not very useful. I have this thing that sounds really good and speaks my language and can't be relied on to actually tell me the truth, because everything it says sounds plausible. And that's just kind of inherent in how large language models work. And so then people said, well, okay, but what if I actually have facts? I'll consider Wikipedia to be the ground truth. And instead of just asking my large language model a question, I will first find relevant passages from Wikipedia, let's say, that are likely to have facts relevant to the answer. And I'll prime the large language model. I'll say, hey, large language model, here's a bunch of facts, articles from Wikipedia. Here's a question, now answer it. And what you find, it's like intuitively makes sense, is that the large language model is much more likely to use the facts in the passage that you fed it rather than make them up. And so this led to this idea of retrieval-augmented generation, where when you interact with a large language model, the first thing it does is it goes retrieves a bunch of hopefully relevant information somehow before it answers.
Yep.
And this makes a lot of sense. And most LLMs that I've seen deployed in production are retrieval augmented in this way.
Correct.
But then people started to think, well, if I have this large language model that's like retrieving information, maybe the thing I ask it is, what time is it in Paris? Well, that's not stored in a database. On some level, it's retrieving information, but it's not retrieving it from a database or text. It's using a tool, looking up, your geolocation, looking up the current time, all these sorts of things, right? And so what started as RAG systems kind of evolved into this more general notion of, what if I just allow my AI to use tools to call other systems, computer systems, to get information? And maybe those other computer systems themselves are AIs. And so now, instead of one AI that's just memorized a bunch of stuff and maybe makes things up, I actually now have a network of AIs that are all experts in their different domains that themselves may have access to external tools or facts or databases or whatever. And this is now what we call like an agentic system, because it's made up of these agents.